A dachshund's a lovable, underslung hound, a cute little sausage so close to the ground. But one little puppy by chance came to be a new kind of branch on his family tree. He was such an ugly dachshund, such an unorthodox dachshund, with legs long as willows and paws big as pillows. Ugh, such an ugly dachshund. Hello there. My name is Brutus, and I'm a dog, a big dog. What kind of dog, you ask? Well, I'm a... Oh, now, wait a minute. If I tell you what kind of a dog I am, that might spoil the story I want to tell you. Let's just put it this way. I thought I was a dachshund, but believe me, I was the ugliest dachshund anyone ever saw.
Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of the Medfield College Film Society. I'm Jeff Crawford. With me are my society members this week. Mr. Andy Brown, high up in the mountains of western North Carolina, in the brisk air. It's getting cold. Andy, how you doing?
Boy, it's cold out there. Boy, it's real cold. And I'm so glad to be inside in this nice warm room and talking with you guys about another movie about a dog.
Put another log on the fire. Down in Central Florida where there are no seasons. Mr. Michael Crawford, how goes it?
Oh, it's a going. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
Yes, it will be enjoyable. And we will go to the Piedmont of North Carolina, the Queen City, the area where there are 4 perfectly even seasons. Mr. Robert McSwain, how goes it?
It is chilly here as well. We actually had some sleet the other day.
I'm so jealous of everyone.
I bet your wife is really loving that sleep.
She is all over the cold fall crisp air right now. She just rises and shines every morning. Just can't wait to get out in it.
Oh. Well, we have a real treat for everyone tonight. This is a movie that we have talked about doing for a long time. And Michael, I'm going to give it to you. This is one we talked about at the very beginning of your involvement in this podcast. What are we watching tonight?
Oh my goodness, people. Tonight, we're watching the 1966 Disney classic, The Ugly Dachshund. It's directed by Norman Tokar. It's written by Albert Alley, based on a book by G.B. Stern. Starring, not a big cast, but what cast there is, oh my. We've got Dean Jones. We've got Suzanne Pleshette. Again, the Blackbeard's Ghost duo of power. They're back again. And wrapping up the trio, we've got Charlie Ruggles himself.
Strong.
Hollywood veteran as Doc Pruitt. We've got, the technical staff for this is the same slate of legends that works on all these movies. Got production design, got Carol Clark and Marvin Davis. Marvin Davis laid out Disneyland, and he production designed this movie. What more?
And Disney World.
And Disney World, too. But, special notice goes to the music by George Bruns.
Yes.
Perhaps the most George Bruns of all George Bruns music scores, I think.
It's how we learned of Bruns.
Exactly.
Yes.
It was a young student's primer for George Bruns. So yeah, got the whole team on this.
This is a movie that you and I watched a lot when we were little, and I don't know why.
I don't know why.
But I think it was the most. Probably more than like Parent Trap or any of the classics. We watched this one more.
Of the Walt era live action stuff, I feel pretty sure we watched this more than anything else for whatever reason. Whatever reason, especially watching it now. Like, why? But man, we sure did.
It must have been, on a VHS next to a real winner, like Must have had a great slate. I wish we knew what was on that tape.
Oh man, yeah, I need to
There
find.
had to be
that
a Herbie
tape.
movie in there somewhere. I bet.
Could have been. Could have been. Could have been.
Yeah, had to have been a strong lineup on that tape. I would have to think.
So I mentioned this in the teaser that this was like there was a real narrow window for me seeing this movie. It was like maybe a week or a weekend, but I watched it like 5 or 6 times over that course of the time we had we had rented the video.
You made the most of that rental.
And just yeah. I mean, so it's weird going back to it because like the stuff that I'd forgotten, the stuff that resonated with me, I remembered. So, but we'll get into that in the plot.
I think this is something we will talk about, but I mean, it's got to be one of the main reasons was just the general aesthetic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Had to have been one of the major.
Well, and the script. I mean, there were so many lines that
Yes.
we'll get to that too. But
It's crazy because I mean, even as a small kid, which I didn't really care about aesthetics and like houses, but I remember thinking this place is cool. Like,
Yeah.
and-
Oh yeah.
Andy, I'm sure you wore out your VHS copy of The Ugly Dachshund.
I mean, yeah, it's like you could see right through that VHS cassette. No, yeah, this was another first for me, and I see why you guys like it. I'll put it that way. I see the appeal.
Oh,
here comes the other
viewing
shoe.
this, I thought about this a lot at watching this. I mean, viewing it as a kid there are 2 grades you give to this movie. One is through the lens of nostalgia, and one is through the lens of like, if I saw this for the first time, what would I think? So, yeah,
Yeah,
I get
yeah. It's one of those things where I'll put it this way: it is a sweet, fun, dumb movie, and I don't mean dumb as in it's like as
Gus
an insult.
dumb,
It's,
but just
it's just it's just one of those. You can put it on in the background and just enjoy it. I think.
yeah.
There's dumb, and then there's Gus dumb. So,
that's right. That's right.
So, yeah.
It's inoffensive. It's inoffensive in its
Absolutely.
dumbness. Yeah.
Yes. Although they're Disney Plus. did
Yeah,
put
not
up-
quite
there's some
offensive.
offensive.
I wouldn't say that. Mostly.
I will say this though, that it looked beautiful, like the restoration or whatever they did to like put it on Disney Plus. I was like, wow, that's so crisp and clear, and it was very well done.
I'll agree with that. I had the same thought. It looked really nice. I mean, for what is essentially like a domestic comedy, it looked really good.
Yeah. Also, I have a problem with the name Dachshund. I cannot say that name. Okay. I struggle with it. So if you hear me call it a Datsun, like a vehicle, like an old Datsun car, that's what I'm trying to get the name right. But I just have a problem with that name.
You know what? It's a bear to type as well, as I discovered
yeah.
as I was making notes. I was like, that
Yes.
is just an easy word to trip over.
Yep. Absolutely.
Dachshund.
Dachshund Fooey. That's what
Dachshund.
I say.
Well, shall we delve into this movie, gentlemen?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We shall.
All right. Let's head into the world of The Ugly Dachshund. Oh, well, we're getting the negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or culture warning here. Wonder what that's about.
Yeah.
Is this the first movie we've
Skip.
had that got the warning? The
think
content?
Yeah,
So-
I believe it is. I was a little jarred by that. I was like, what? And then I was like, what in the world have they done in this thing?
No, didn't we get it in Swiss Family Robinson?
Probably, yes.
maybe.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
you're
like
right,
that
maybe.
prominent though. It was like I thought it was sort of up in the top corner. Like, yeah, there are pirates.
Cultural
in this
depictions.
Cultural
yeah.
depictions.
Nah, I
yeah.
think we got the same message. But anyways,
I'll have to go back
Stay
and look.
tuned.
Yeah.
Distributed by Buena Vista Pictures. We open to a beautiful painting of. Wait, have they found you, Big Andy? This looks like your neck of the woods here.
Yeah, it sure did, didn't it?
Well, I really thought it. I mean, I had to go look and see where it took place, and I couldn't find a
Sure looks like
location.
Southern California, the rest of the movie.
Yeah, the rest of the movie
Looks like
The
Griffith
map
Park.
painting and the rest of the movie don't exactly match.
Oh boy, we have that sweet, sweet George Bruns score playing. One of the finest, truly a legendary score in our house, as Michael has said. And all of our
Pizzicato.
favorite studio stable of folks are here. And we cut into an amazing house. First, you have the beautifully tended lawn with flagstones, a pond, a house with stone accents, nice patio, a studio. I think my whole life is a reaction to this house.
And you've kind of pulled it off.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're pretty close there.
That's right.
You just need more
really-
AstroTurf and water features in your backyard.
Really? A
You do
guiding
need some water
light.
features. You're missing that.
I know. Well, my wife is anti-water feature, so
Oh.
this is going to have to be some big negotiating. It would already happen, my friends.
I think you need to Clockwork Orange this film until she buckles. Gotta get
Yeah.
that water feature.
I don't think you need her permission. You just do it.
That's true. I mean, yeah,
Show up.
And say if you want it gone, undo it.
There you
That's
go.
right.
that could work. That could work.
You're gonna end up with like a fountain from Splash.
Well, I'll see your water feature. I'll raise you a fountain from Splash in the den.
But man, yeah, they do lead off with their strength with like opening with
Yeah.
this backyard.
It's just so amazing. The way it's laid out. Oh, to be there in real life.
I spent
we-
more time than I would like to admit trying to find a blueprint of this house. Just, like, seeing if somebody had like created one, but there is none. I might have
luck.
to work on that. I might have to create my own.
Yet. We cut to our favorite lead, Dean Jones, as Mark Garrison. He's frantically getting dressed in an amazing white sweater with a collar that has its own zip code. I mean,
Yes.
goodness
Oh
gracious.
man, that sweater.
This turtleneck sweater is about as magnificent as the backyard.
The man can dress. We've
He
established this, and he continues it. We don't see Mark's wife, Fran. She's indisposed. She says, I think we'd better go. I think it's coming soon. Well, Mark is busy calling the doctor to tell them that she's ready and they're bringing her in. You know, guys, I remember when my wife was in labor and we went to the hospital. It wasn't this panic, but okay, I guess it's just the movies.
And it's the 60s.
Yeah, that's true. Mark gets out to get the car by an incredible stone fireplace, I might add.
Yeah.
The milkman greets him, and Mark just blows by him in the car. Fran comes out in the trench coat. We notice via the cuts that they're not really showing her very much. The milkman says, just let him know when to up the order.
And that milkman, I mean,
Yeah.
that slow, creepy smile that he had gave me.
There's a lot of creepy people in service in this movie.
In this
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
Garrison.
It all looks so perfect that it makes me think there's got to be there's got to be a dark underbelly to this whole world.
Maybe that's what we need to work on. Is the
Prequel possibilities
the
here,
prequel
yeah.
to the dark underbelly of Anytown, USA.
Cat
That milkman,
burglar.
though, was like one of those, that guy.
Bowling Green.
I mean, I know that guy's been in like a billion different movies and just like bit parts. Gotta be.
Surprised he wasn't on the Andy Griffith Show, but we've got some coming up. They take off in the car. Mark puts the pedal to the metal, so much so that the motorcycle cop sees them speeding, takes off to pull them over. And hey, look, it's our favorite cop from Boat Nix and Blackbeard's Ghost. Again, that guy.
My lifelong impersonation of being on a motorcycle or being a cop is based on the way this guy bounces on his motorcycle in front of the blue screen. Just that sort of like rhythmic bounce is
Do you
So
suppose?
ridiculous.
Another time for suspensions.
Do you suppose this actor just sits in a waiting room in a cop costume, just waiting for the get called that day?
Seems like it.
Yeah.
I need you on stage 3.
yeah. Can't be speeding through Griffith Park like that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So that's Kelly Thornton, who, funny enough, was on the Andy Griffith Show. He played Harold Grigsby in
No
an episode
way.
of Opie's newspaper.
Oh wow.
Way. Wow.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, as he motions for Mark to pull over, Mark, that is, motions at Fran. And the cop nods and escorts him right to the county hospital. As Michael points out, right in the middle of Griffith Park. It seems like all this is. And as the cop stops, he barks some instructions to the medics, which I like. He's revving his motor on his motorcycle as he's doing this. To get moving, we have a special delivery here. All the employees at the hospital look around, as does the cop, only to see that Mark and Fran are just continuing down the road. In a huff, he takes off after them, finally pulling up after them. Turns out they're at an animal hospital, and Fran is delivering her dachshund, who is in labor.
So I'm assuming the hospital was the studio.
The hospital was, like the ink and paint building at the
I was gonna
studio.
say,
Yeah.
And then, of course, the vet is our old neighborhood that we've seen.
Yeah.
The back.
It's the Ned Brainerd neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of familiar facades in this one.
Did you know where they were in Griffith Park, Michael? Because it looked like where you come out of the carousel. I don't know if I was just making
I
that up.
think so.
Not.
It was around that because they had the golf course behind them, so it's kind of like around that way. Yeah.
Well, so Mark explains all this to the cop, and the cop starts maniacally laughing. And Mark just keeps talking to the cop, thanking him and trying to relate to them as he gets written up. And the list of offenses are lengthy. The cop seems very perplexed that Mark works from home, which maybe I just took particularly offense to that. He's like, you work from home? What?
Yeah.
And,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say that, when he tells him, he's like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm an artist. And the look on his face, on the cop's face, he's like, one of those kind of things.
Exactly. He's getting Mark's getting pretty defensive at this point. Fran comes out and says that, that's right. Fran comes out and says that Donka has had her first puppy in just like a minute, it's pretty fast. And she said that the cop was so nice. Isn't there some benevolent fund we could donate to? Mark says, believe me, I am. Now we get...
I'm giving, Fran.
That's right.
That's a pretty good Dean Jones there.
Yeah, that is.
I wonder, if all the police officers who watched this movie just bust out laughing at those kind of jokes. It was like, yeah.
We got them.
High-fiving each other.
Now we get Doc Pruitt, the Charlie Ruggles played role. The vet comes out, says there are 2 more puppies. That should be all. He needs to keep them for the night to make sure all is well. Mark asks the doc if they are all female. When he answers yes, Mark says, my luck's holding. So, We got back to the house, and Fran is dreaming up names for dogs. Gertrude von Donkeline. Martha von Donkeline. Fran tells Mark that she has to get paid for it. It's so amazing.
I thought these dog names when I was a kid was like the funniest thing in the world.
I mean, I still think they're pretty funny.
Yeah, they still hold up well.
Ludmila.
Yeah. Fran tells Mark that she has to get papers for the dogs so they can get into the dog shows. And then she's just kind of like in a daze, just saying names. Hildegard Dagmar Ermtrude.
Wow.
I was sad there was no Von Stickel in there.
I know. Easy Von Stickel opportunity. Mark turns out the light, and Fran turns it back on, asking about Frida, Esmeralda, Ludmila, and just keeps asking, to which Mark covers up his ears with a pillow. Maybe these 2 are not doing so well. I don't know.
Trigger.
You got the twin beds.
Constantly on the edge.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the twin beds.
So maybe Fran's got the Jimmy legs. That's me on the left there.
Oh, so the next day we cut to Doc Pruitt's office, where Mark is there to pick up the pups. Heidi, Clotilda, and Wilhelmina are the final names. or Chloe for short, for Clotilda. When he goes and gets the dogs, Mark sees a Great Dane nursing some pups. Well, Doc Pruitt picks up a dog from the litter. He says the Duchess is the parent, or the mom. It's the greatest dog he's ever owned. Mark says he'd give his back teeth to have a dog like that, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, he really likes.
He's in love. That Duchess had a lot of puppies too.
Oh, yeah. Doc Pruitt, to that point, is trying to feed the puppy with a dropper, but the puppy isn't taken to the formula. Doc says there's too little milk. Duchess has picked him out and pushed him away from the litter. Well, this just shocks Mark. Doc Pruitt says that Mark's Dachshund has too much milk and proposes that maybe the Dachshund could be a wet nurse to the Great Dane.
Wow.
Mark declines, but Doc leaves the puppy with Mark while he goes and gets the Dachshund puppies, and Mark is pretty smitten. But Doc Pruitt, man, he really works the levers. He's kind of got that Andy Griffith, or Andy Taylor, should I say, reverse psychology kind of, or just subtle psychology.
Yeah.
Thing going on.
No place for a Great Dane and a family full of doxies anyway.
Yeah.
That's
right. He's smooth. He's smooth.
That's some sound advice, though, I must say.
Pulling those strings.
That's right. So we cut to Mark getting home. Fran comes out to meet the dogs. Mark keeps trying to tell her what's going on, but Fran continues to talk over him.
There's like crazy cat ladies. She's like a crazy dog lady. Like,
yes, she is.
Dog owner's a bad name.
Oh, yes. It just so happens there's another dog in the litter, but Fran just kind of continues to talk over him. So Mark just kind of doesn't say anything, even though it's obvious that the dog is different. Fran says it's probably because he was born later.
Come on, Mark.
Spit it out, man. Just get it out there.
Just say it. Now we cut to Mark in the living room coming up with names. Rover, Prince, Butch. I love he's got a Dachshund book with a Great Dane book inside of it, which I thought was a great little detail.
And the picture in the Great Dane book, too.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, of course. Fran comes in, asks if there's something wrong with the new dog. His head and feet are all out of proportion. He's positively ugly. Fran says she doesn't care what the dog is named. Just don't call him Rover or Sport. Just give him a name with dignity. So Mark picks Brutus and really makes a meal out of that. Brutus. Just walking around the room. Brutus.
I mean, he's almost verging on like early career Tim Allen territory.
Yes.
with
That's a great
Brutus.
There are some of the great Dean Jones moments are in this movie. That is one of him when he's like coming up with the dog names. This really cracks me up. Brutus.
It's young Dean Jones too. I mean, he looks so
He's
young.
looking good, man.
Yeah.
He's looking good.
He's a good looking fella. Dapper.
His
But yet
hair
so
is,
many
like,
of the
very
lines,
vertical.
Yeah, his hair is like immaculate. It's unbelievable. You just know he has those sort of like 60s and 70s kind of like man hairbrushes that are like horse brushes. you know he's got those.
Yeah.
But there's so many lines in this movie that are like been funny to me my entire life, not because of like the line, but from how either Pleshette or Dean Jones says it.
Yes.
And I don't know. It's so weird because it's not the content of the line, but it's like their delivery that makes it funny for me.
Oh, there are so many of those in this. Yes. So we cut to Mark in his studio. Oh, man. His studio. Just living that life.
He's doing pretty well for an artist.
It seems like it. He's seems like it.
A pretty sweet station wagon in the garage next to a Mustang, so...
Oh, yeah, that big old station wagon. Yeah, he seems to work in many different media.
Yes. Yes, he does.
Yeah, he's all over the map, definitely. Yeah.
Mixed media. He's painting right now. Well, actually, he's just sketching. He's drawing a bunch of dachshunds looking at a towering Great Dane. It's kind of like a rough sketch he's working on.
I want a print of this art.
Oh, a lot of this, yeah. Fran comes in while Mark is talking to Doc Pruitt, kind of secretly telling him he hasn't told Fran yet about Brutus's ancestry. Well, Fran looks at the sketch. Mark says he's working on a concept of some smaller animals contrasted with something larger, which is just kind of weird. Fran notices the dachshund, says maybe a Great Dane would be good as a contrast, but he should definitely use the doxies as models. Mark says, well, the doxies are just tiny, and Fran says, well, you haven't seen how much they've grown. And here come the dachshunds around the corner, and they're huge. Where has Mark been, guys?
I know. Seriously.
His man cave hanging out.
Yeah, for real.
I've been arting.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, well, stay tuned. If those pups are huge, yep, the gig is up. Around the corner comes big old Brutus. Pretty clear he's a Great Dane at this point. And Fran is livid, Andy. She says she's never had anyone do something so sneaky. And goes off on Mark says sneaky about 10 times.
But what did Mark think was going to happen?
Yeah.
And had he not been in the kitchen at all?
Where has he been? Yeah. I mean, yeah. Should have said it the first day, Mark. Get in, get out.
That's right.
What are you thinking? Well, Mark opens up, tells her the story about how Brutus wouldn't make it if he was left on his own and they didn't step in. Fran is touched, but she still insists that Mark take Brutus back to Doc Pruitt since he is indeed weaned at this point. So Mark sadly takes Brutus back to Doc Pruitt. And we cut back to Mark in the studio. Fran is bringing him lunch and coffee service, guys. Any thoughts on this?
I'm envious.
They have a lot of mood swings in this relationship.
Yeah.
I think she has a lot of mood swings. I don't think he's.
Yeah. She has the most.
He's a little touchy. They're both a little touchy.
He's being moody today. He says it's going terrible. He hadn't had a good idea all day. Fran says 4 weeks have gone by and he's still angry. Well, Mark blows a gasket about no cream in the coffee, and Fran comes up and hugs him and asks, do you know how bad you've been acting? Mark says, I'm a heel, and he apologizes. He doesn't want to have any more problems about dogs. He says he wants to take Fran out and show her the town. Fran says she has a class for grooming dachshunds. Well, that sets Mark off again for a little bit.
Hair trigger, man.
It's not a healthy relationship.
It's not at all a healthy relationship. They got some real problems. There's some real anger issues here.
I think you're right. I think he's just as much to blame now that I think about it.
Got some lingering resentment for sure.
Yeah. He's not upfront with how he feels about things. And I think that's the problem.
We cut to Mark in a tux, and Fran comes in wearing a very fancy black dress. Says they're staying at home. Mark says, what about the reservations and the tickets to the Philharmonic? Fran says they need to stay home. It's better just cozy. Well, Mark gets a look in his eyes and says, well, that doesn't sound so bad. And Fran then says, besides, we can't celebrate your birthday without the doxies. Mark checks on his champagne.
Golly. Talk about shooting a man's horse dead.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Mark chokes on his champagne and says, another iconic line, it's my birthday, right? That makes me king for the day, right? Well, I don't want to do anything with the doxies. I love that he thinks he's king for the day. Well, Fran says that she has the best thing planned and goes off, turns off the lights. Oh, and this is just so painful.
This is painful.
This is awful.
This is torture.
This Mark is so sassy, and he is really like down in this champagne. Like he keeps pouring glasses of champagne.
Heavy drinking.
Yeah. Fran comes back with a cake, and the dachshunds coming in with party hats and presents. After blowing out his candle, Fran gives the presents from the doxies. Wilhelmina gave a necktie. To which Mark is like, "What's this in this necktie box looking thing?"
Oh, another
It's a necktie. Oh, great. God. Heidi gives what Mark thinks is a soup spoon. Oh, a soup spoon? Fran says, well, it's the latest kind of pipe. Mark says, I stopped smoking 2 months ago. Ugh. Jeez. Chloe gives a music box that plays Where Has My Little Dog Gone? And Mark is just about to lose it. And Fran says, that's the wrong tune. The one in the store played the Blue Danube. Which really... It's so weird.
Like, why are you giving him a box that plays the Blue Danube from the Dachshund?
Exactly. I'm not buying it. Well, Donka is the next and last, and it is a bronzed bone. Fran says that Donka didn't know what to give you, so she took her favorite bone and bronzed it. Well, Mark slams the bone down, and we get a great shot of Fran jumping when he slams the bone down.
But he pretends not to know what it is when it's clearly a bone.
Yeah.
What's this?
What is this?
We know that gag.
No. Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
We know that gag.
Been there.
Woo.
Mark gets up and says, Fran, there comes a time in every man's life where he has got to stand up and be counted, and my time is now. Tell it, Mark. He says he has had it with the walking wieners. He says he refuses to let them run his life. Keep them out of my way, or they'll really wind up being sausages. Woo.
Breakthrough, though. That's good.
Breakthrough.
Yeah, it's good.
This
He
is
expressing
good.
yourself. I love he says it's my time to be counted. She said, if you're going to count to 10.
That's so dismissive. That's crazy. Yeah.
Fran gets up and starts giving him the business, man. Oh, boy. The most selfish, thoughtless, inconsiderate, ungrateful person I have ever met. And then Mark goes into the bedroom, says, get this thing off my bed. I just want to relax. Well, Fran says, it's her birthday present, and you can move it yourself. On Mark's bed is a big basket with a satin sheet on top of it. And sure enough, in that basket is old Brutus, who's even bigger. And so Mark is super excited that it's Brutus. And while he's sitting there talking to Brutus, Fran is making some amazing faces at Mark, just of mockery. It's
Yes.
so good.
Great screen cap material.
Yes. Yes. Meanwhile, the dachshunds, who are a little bit troublesome, are eating all the cake. We cut to a beautiful domestic scene of Fran knitting. Mark comes in from the studio, asks, well, how do you burp a baby? Fran says, I don't know.
What's he working on?
That's a great question, man. Mark's got a lot of irons in the fire. As we said, he works in a lot of medias, and it's like a lot of different projects at the same time.
Who are his clients?
How do you burp a baby?
I need I like a modern painting of someone burping a baby, perhaps. I'll get right on that.
So she doesn't know. And he said, well, hold one of the dogs and do it. So she grabs one of the dachshunds and shows him how to burp the baby and actually burps the dog. And he said, well, come with me, and you just get to model. She's like, okay, fine. So then we see the rest of the dachshunds, and they start to create havoc. And this just really bothered me as a child, and it still bothers me now. It's very painful to watch.
It's very stressful.
Yes, we've got some great music while they're at it. This is
The music is good.
Yeah. True, great music, but the dogs are running all around, causing trouble. Brutus seems to be trying to bark at them to stop. We are led to believe, maybe Maybe he's just barking at them, but the dachshunds are doing all the damage. And it goes on and on and on. And
it is too long. That sequence is way too long.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say that one thing that struck me as an adult watching this was how incredibly difficult it must have been to film this. Because I mean, it does go on very long, but it tells, like, there's a logical, it's not just like random stuff. It's like a logical progression of things that like they do that kind of builds up. So, it had to be like storyboarded out, and then coordinating it with all the dogs to get it all like done in sequence, because they like wrap everything with string and then the string pulls stuff down. So it's not just like random stuff. It must have been really hard to do.
Well, I'll interject what it's made me think of. I'd forgotten about this scene, but my late great German Shepherd Lexi was visiting my mom, who is very tunnel visioned when she's working on anything, and she was knitting, and sat there for Lord knows how long, and looked up, and Lexi, my dog, had taken the yarn and ran it all over the house.
Hey, man, a real life Ugly Dachshund situation.
She said she just looked up and went, "Well, how did this happen? What happened here? What?" And
Brutus,
Lexi. So, yeah, I saw this scene. I was like, "Oh wow, it's just like the time my dog did that."
It could happen to you, man. It could happen to you.
A true life adventure.
She was working alone though, not with Dachshunds.
Also, wonder how do you get a dachshund to walk backwards on a piano keyboard?
I was going to say we have a lot of piano back and forth all over it, with the piano playing on the score.
Yes,
we're really into that.
Yes.
Eventually, they return and they see poor Brutus in the middle of the thing, and they blame Brutus, as is the motif.
Yeah, it's just like etude brute. I mean,
ooh, hey.
It should have been the name of the movie.
Exactly. I was like, it's just low hanging fruit.
Guys, life is not fair, man. Have you ever felt like the Brutus? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, many times.
Come on. Anyway, Mark says, "Hey, it's not that big of a deal. It's just some yarn." And this is where I really crack up, because Mark's walking around trying to undo it, and Fran's like, Mark, and hilarious, like it pulls all one side of the chess pieces off the chessboard. It's like a great tragedy. Oh, not the chess pieces. Like the logs on the fireplace like settle in. It's just,
they get a good of smoke coming out.
Yeah, that's true. But all this to say, the dachshunds have disappeared and look innocent, and old Brutus looks to blame. Guys, are they going to figure out that the dachshunds are no good, or are we just in for a long ride? I guess we'll have to stay tuned, as that wraps up Act 1.
We begin Act 2 with Mark sitting out in the yard, working on a painting of Brutus, an amazing painting of Brutus. But his model, who is tied up, is agitated by the dachshunds, who are posing for photographs for Fran. Mark kind of cluelessly lets Brutus off the leash, since Brutus is like straining and barking. He's like, "I'll let you run around." Of course, Brutus spoils the photo just before Fran takes it. Mark and Fran have a brief conversation about whether Brutus really thinks he's their brother, and then the doorbell rings. Mark heads to the door, and it's a cop.
Wait. I want to talk about how when he goes to the door, he goes through the screen door and just raises his arms. He doesn't open the screen door. He just like walks through the tiny slit And he does it when he comes back, too. He just, like, squeezes through it.
Don't let the air conditioning out.
That's like his thing, man. Yeah.
He does some weird. He's some more weird stuff here in a minute. I'll get to.
Yeah, he does some weird stuff.
He makes some interesting choices.
He saunters. So anyway, we've got Officer Carmody at the door. It's the cop who gave Mark all those tickets at the top of the film, which apparently was a departmental record for a single day, which I doubt in LA, but maybe. He's a sergeant now, though. I assume he got promoted based on all the tickets he wrote. And he's on a special detail. He's looking for a cat burglar who is pilfering the neighborhood. He says to Mark, "You're supposed to ask who'd want to steal a cat." Mark doesn't get it, though. This is a very jovial cop.
Yes.
Yes. As my notes was like, this cop is too much.
He is laughing it up left and right. He's got a lot of teeth, and he's showing them off. Anyway, he leaves. Mark goes back, tells Fran,
But when he leaves, did anybody see how he got in the car when he left?
No.
He went in head first. Like who? I was like, who gets it? I was like, who gets into a car head first? Like, I don't know how he did it. Like, he goes in head first, and then like he sort of like lays down on the bench, and then pulls his legs in.
Well, I mean, he's used to riding motorcycles.
Like a Seinfeld episode.
That's right.
He doesn't know how to drive cars. He's new to that. He's a motorcycle.
That's right.
He figures he's got the helmet, so if he hits his head, he's all right.
But yeah, it looks so awkward.
It's kind of like the reverse Bo and Luke Duke, really.
That's right.
The opposite.
I don't know, Jerry. She goes in the car head first. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Goes in the car head first. Who does
Why did you dump her?
She went in the car head first.
Just slid her legs in.
Is he a maniac?
Mark tells Fran about the cat burglar, to which she responds, "Oh, that's funny. Who'd steal a cat?"
That I thought was pretty funny and just weird.
Such a weird joke.
Yeah.
Even better, she refers to Officer Carmody as Officer Finnegan.
That made me laugh out loud because it's like, why would you put that into the script? Oh, that nice man, Officer Finnegan. It's like, no.
And he's like, "Carmody." And she's like, "Oh." And they don't make anything else. It's like not a running joke. It's just a weird. I thought that was hilarious when I was a kid.
It's another cul-de-sac. Yeah.
Oh, that nice Officer Finnegan. Anyway, they're talking, and Brutus climbs into this sort of decorative flower cart she had been posing the dachshunds in, and he breaks it. Oops. Of course, Mark jumps up to defend Brutus, and he brags on Brutus when he goes and fetches a wheel from the broken wagon. He's like, "Look, Fran, he's already learned to fetch." She's not enthused. But after she leaves, he and Brutus get in a tugging match over the wheel, and Mark winds up in the backyard pond, inevitably.
So that was not the same dog. Did anyone catch that?
No.
That was totally a different dog on the Tug of War. Like, they had makeup on this dog, and this dog popped up 2 or 3 more times during the movie. Like, they had a stunt double.
Man, you're really the animal actor expert.
Oh, I'm keeping an eye on this stuff. Yeah, they're not getting one past me. So, but it was
Dean
weird.
Jones
At least to me, it was.
Oh, there you go. Dean Jones with the great whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
When he falls.
That's an all-timer.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, he says maybe Brutus does need some training. And he goes into the house. Friend's like, "Well, what'd you do?" And he says, "Like, I sat down in the lily pond." She's like, "You're getting as clumsy as Brutus." So the humans are gone, which means, that's right, it's time for more stressful dog shenanigans. This time the doxies go running into Mark's studio, and Brutus gives chase. Havoc ensues. Far too much mayhem to describe here, but needless to say, paint is smeared, paint is spilled, paint is sprayed all over everything and everybody. Brutus confuses a clay ball with the dog's gray rubber ball, and he chews on that. And some made my jaw hurt footage.
It's terrible.
We got plaster sculptures getting shattered and tails spreading oil paint across canvases. This one, I think more than the others, is kind of mesmerizing in a way, but also nerve-wracking.
This was very I found this one more nerve-wracking than the first one.
Yeah.
I agree.
Also,
I agree.
Again, I think it's pretty impressive how they managed to, I assume, storyboard out all this stuff and then make it happen in a sequence. Although at some points I have a feeling they're just chucking the dogs through the air.
Well,
There's one where the
the
doxies are like falling on this big leather couch, and I'm pretty sure somebody was just chucking the dogs.
I was going to say that. There's definitely a production assistant tossing a dog in that one.
And there's one where Brutus slides into like this cabinet or something, and then stuff goes flying. And he's like skidding across the floor. I'm pretty sure somebody was just like bowling with Brutus.
Yeah, there's some PETA wouldn't let this fly these days. It's just a little throwing dogs vibe. I love that Mark's, we talked about his multimedia. There's some sculptures of like an eye and a nose and a skull.
On like
there's
perched on the shelf.
Like a giant just like print of a cop that's from the like safety bazaar or whatever that says on the back of the thing. It's like this is real mixed media artist, man. He's all over the map. He's really got some good stuff going for him. It's like an impressionistic painting that Brutus messes up with his tail.
I was waiting
really
for
impressive.
a slab of marble to get knocked over and
shatter. Yeah, he's got all those sketches that they spill like mucilage or whatever all over, and it just fouls up everything. Brutus gets him on his paws. That "Don't Ride the Road to Disaster" painting. I wish I had a poster of that.
That would be an amazing poster to have.
That would be a great poster. Yeah. Don't ride the road to disaster. And then, of course, the dachshunds come sliding down that and smearing paint. Oh, man, it's a mess. It's a huge mess. They've got, I assume, what's like dry plaster of Paris, like going everywhere through the air. It's like a cloud of white everywhere. Eventually, they make enough of a mess that Mark and Fran come running and find the devastation. Of course, the dachshunds have all bailed by then, and Brutus is sitting in the middle of the disaster. Fran is giving
Come on,
Mark,
man.
Yeah. And Brutus, completely oblivious to like everything. He's like, hey. Come on, Brutus, wise up. Fran is giving Mark the business about how he'll probably try and blame the innocent doxies, even though they're not there. Ignoring the very dachshund-sized paint tracks down the road safety sign, for one thing. And there's dachshund sign everywhere, all over this crime scene. But she's razzing him and Brutus real hard. And he finally snaps and tells her to shut up, which does not go down well.
no.
I'm starting to think they have some marital issues here.
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Yeah, like I wish there was a time in this movie at all where they showed why they liked each other at all, because most of
That's
it
part of the
is-
prequel that we got to make
Yeah.
about the
We
neighborhood.
got to build the backstory. We got to show some
Bowling
scenes of
Green
them.
Drive or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Perfect.
We need scenes of them liking each other because it is pretty harsh what we see. He apologizes instantly for the shut up, but he is on extremely thin ice. Extremely.
Mm-hmm.
Later that night, Fran is itemizing the cost of all the destruction to his studio
This is
in a
great.
very
to me.
showboaty way.
Yeah, this is really getting. I'm checking out here.
I will say the only thing exception to this is that the writing on paper in this movie is always great. Like the ticket write up, all of it is like so unrealistic. It's just like just scribble it on paper and like
And her like punctuation, the pop, pop, pop punctuation.
so good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like she's writing in like Continental Congress cursive or something. Right. She's writing so big. Anyway, Brutus, being a moron, is outside the sliding glass window to the bedroom, and he's just barking nonstop. And Fran goes on to start talking about all the other stuff he's broken in recent weeks. She had to replace her mother's antique vase.
What about our marriage, Fran? Is that broken?
Voss.
Can't replace
Here's what
that.
I'm wondering. I mean, it's like they just ignore these barks. I mean, that's my question about the studio thing is like all these dogs are barking loud as crap. What were they doing?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
is their home like soundproofed? They do seem pretty oblivious to a lot of things. So maybe they
Yes.
just don't pay attention. Yes.
Yes. Throughout the film, maybe it's, they don't build them like that anymore.
That's
Some
true.
good soundproofing. She's talking about all the stuff that Brutus is broken. She says he's got to go. Time to go. And Mark's kind of like fobbing her off. He says he's going to go try, get Brutus to be quiet, take him on a walk, put him in the garage. And Fran has all the dachshunds jump up on the bed to do whatever. Of course, Mark opens the glass door to leave to take Brutus to the garage, but the Great Dane comes sliding in past. He bolts in and goes flying leap on the bed, sending Fran and the dachshunds flying.
The cuts from this just crack me up. It's like really quick cuts of.
Should have won an
different
Oscar for
players.
editing.
It's so good. It's like the Great Dane and then Fran, and it's like Hitchcock or something. It's great.
And her scream, like her, "Wah!"
That's right. Yes.
And it's like they put the dachshunds on like, I don't know, like if you put them on like a cafeteria tray and like popped them up in the air or something.
Right.
Anyway, everybody goes flying and the bed is wrecked completely. And she does her little pop, pop, pop punctuation on the writing pad to write down the cost of a new bed. Mark says he gives up. He's done. Brutus will go back to Doc Pruitt in the morning.
Some issues, man. Issues.
So he takes Brutus out to the garage. He's still barking and whining, which is very annoying. Mark leaves the door open a crack so air can get in, which seems silly.
Kind of garage has he got there?
Got my hermetically sealed panic room garage.
That's true. I think it was the 60s. Maybe it was bomb proof.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a fallout shelter.
This is the
It's-
Fallout garage.
yeah. Which, although you fallout shelter, you're going to need some air from somewhere. So maybe that's not a good idea. Anyway, seems silly, but it's an inciting incident. Mark, in the process, has locked himself out of the front door. So he tries to get in a window, but it's locked. So he's creeping around. And of course, Sergeant Carmody, he sees all this and thinks it's the cat burglar, as previously mentioned. He comes pulling up as Mark walks around to the back of the house, and he gets out of his squad car very delicately. Of course, these sergeants creeping around, and that brings Brutus out of the garage. Brutus has no problem getting out of the garage whatsoever, obviously.
Of course not.
Because why would he? Bad plan, Mark. Anyway, Brutus thinks the sergeant's trespassing, so he starts barking and gives chase, and he trees the sergeant in the tree in the front yard. Brutus just barking away, but Fran and Mark are inside. They ignore the barking. They put cotton in their ears, which means that they then miss the sergeant calling for help. Rescue, son! Rescue, son!
Did they really? Yeah, right.
Yeah, really. Apparently also missing is everyone else in the neighborhood. Although we hear the car radio calling him asking him to investigate a dog barking. But apparently they don't hear the man screaming.
It's like investigate a man screaming in a tree.
Or do they ask anyone else to investigate when he never replies to his radio? Which seems odd.
Man,
Whatever.
Yeah, but at least we get the police car radio, which is like a trope that exists throughout many of these movies.
Oh, they love the police radio.
Yeah, they love to use that as a
They really love
plot
it.
device.
Is that water?
Yeah, totally.
I hear water.
I hear water.
Oh, the next morning, the sergeant's asleep in the tree. As Mark comes out to look for the paper. He's lost his voice. And so we get the thing that Jeff and I repeated a billion times during our youth. Miss Carson! Miss Carson!
Also, Mark. I mean, Mark is like
oblivious.
Where's the newspaper? Oh, it's like there's a police car right in front of the house.
Yes, he does this
What is
whole
the
like
deal
bit
with him
with the newspaper and doesn't know. Oh, what's this police car doing?
What are
here?
this police car is doing? Big deal.
It's like, what is wrong with your line of sight, man?
What's wrong with a lot of
He's
you?
He's an artsy type.
He's the same guy
true.
that missed his Great Dane growing up. So.
Yeah, haven't seen him in a while.
No, I've been out in the garage. I've been hanging out in my art studio.
Finnegan lost his voice, but he tries to explain what happened. And Mark thinks it's great because it means Brutus thought the sergeant was a cat burglar. The sergeant just wants to get down and get in his car, but Mark is being a dope. He goes and calls Fran out to show her the scene. Brutus is still barking at the sergeant. He gives a speech to her about how no burglar would ever come near their house if Brutus was around. He still doesn't get maybe he should let the sergeant down. But Fran finally is like, let the sergeant down, and he does. He calls Brutus off, sends him inside, and the sergeant climbs down. Mark is very obliviously chipper, but the sergeant just wants to go. He's like, do you want some breakfast? You want some aspirin? You want some water? You want something to drink? He's like, no, Mr. Garrison, I just want to go home.
I think
I
Mark's
just want to go home.
Mark's lucky that the cop didn't just shoot the dog.
Yeah, for real. Because yeah, that's a good point. Unfortunately for the sergeant, Mark leaves to go back inside, and the sergeant tries to start his patrol car. He finds the battery is dead, which gives us some nice dead car Foley to prove it.
Yes. I love the dead radio Foley, which is just like him clicking the thing. It's like,
yeah, clack, 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 clack. A really loud clicker on that radio.
Yeah, totally.
And while he's trying to do this, he's like, well, I'll get out of the car. But Brutus comes charging back. And so the sergeant's trapped in his car. He can't leave to get help. He's stuck. The only thing he can do is honk the horn, but that's dead. So we get some really great dead horn Foley too, as he bangs his head against the horn.
How did he get in the car that time, Robert?
He got in normal that time, because I did check it.
Okay.
So it wasn't consistent.
One normal, one not normal. Got it.
Yeah. So maybe because he was off his game because he's been in a tree all night. So.
Okay. There you go.
Well, the night before when, old Brutus was chasing after him, he acted like the door was locked.
Yeah, well, it's like it was like stuck or something. He couldn't get in. Yeah. That was, he was in a hurry, I guess. But yeah, that was convenient.
It's funny, I'd blocked this entire act out of my mind. Like I was watching this going, I remember nothing about the second act of this movie. The cat burglar, the cop, what's coming up next.
Mm-hmm.
Well, funny you say that. Because a new day dawns, and with it comes the reason for the film's Disney Plus content warning.
Yeesh.
Yeah, as soon as the door opens, I go, oh, right.
Me too. I was like, oh boy.
This movie was made in California. I remember now.
Yes. Yeah. It's Mr. Toyama and Kenji. They've arrived in their pickup truck with a pagoda in the back. Mr. Toyama is very proper and businesslike, befitting his catering company. We see, on the side of the truck, it's Toyama Catering, written in Chungking noodle script. And he's got his newly imported number one nephew, Kenji, who is a kind of slouchy kid in a ball cap and jacket. Newly imported, but already very American, we see in his slouch.
That's that actor, Mako. Is that his name?
He is a real legendary Asian actor, and this was his first movie.
Wasn't he in Die Hard? Wasn't he in the tower?
Oh, he may have been.
Anyways, that guy's been in everything.
But he's been in a ton of stuff. Yeah. And this was his first movie, which I'm sure he looks back on with fondness. Fran tells Mr. Toyama to start in the backyard, to which he agrees. He is very unhappy, however, to see the dachshunds. Dog? No, he is not happy to see the dachshunds at all. She tells him they'll be out of the way. So he goes to the backyard. She goes to fill Mark in on what's happening, that there's so much to be done, she says in a mock Asian accent.
Oh, no.
He asks how much the Oriental Bacchanal is costing them, which is a great phrase. Apparently, though, they all their friends. They haven't entertained in 6 months, so they are due to throw a party. And man, she's going to throw a banger.
Also, eating grapefruit, by the way, and having another coffee service. These people are living it up, man. They've got the finest.
Yeah,
only the finest for the Garrisons.
Good and good for you as well. She's going down her checklist. She's got a big old checklist. Finally tells Mark Brutus needs to be gone during the party. He's going to go give Brutus a walk. She's like, no, I need you to help. They get in a back and forth about the dachshunds and Brutus again. And then Mark finally agrees he'll tie Brutus up while the event is prepared. He doesn't think anything could go wrong. What could go wrong? But just then we hear a call of Ryan from the backyard. Kenji's in a tree, and Brutus is standing over Mr. Toyama, who's lying in the flower garden, thinking Brutus is a lion. It's the only thing you can do with, a savage creature is just lie still, play dead. So he's lying in the Liriope, playing dead. They pull Brutus off, and we cut to later, the party's going on. We find Brutus tied up shockingly inadequately, I must add. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Mark.
Michael, you skipped our another quote. Well, Fran going, Mr. Toyama!
Mr. Toyama! It's true.
I feel like sometimes
later.
Suzanne Pleshette gets so free in this role. I mean, she just really goes off. It's really amazing. It's just like
Mr. Toyama.
I don't know what in the world. That's just amazing.
See these quotes, I have memories of you guys doing this out of context, and I'm going, what? I knew where it had to have come from, but I didn't know the exact source. So this is all putting the puzzle together for me now.
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Toyama got
a lot. Yes.
Shout outs. Yes. To
it's
this
just
day,
so weird.
Fact.
The way she says things, especially her, is just so weird. She's going to try to, she gets on top of him when he's lying down in the bushes. Yeah. Mr. Toyama. So weird.
Yeah.
There's another great quote coming, not in this movie, but in a future movie that I'm looking forward to that you guys used to do. That's
I'm
coming up.
Forward to that. Could be anything.
Because there's a lot.
So yeah, Brutus is tied up in just a pathetically inadequate way while the party's taking place in the backyard. And this is an amazing aesthetic. Mr. Toyama has blown the roof off the place. There is a bridge they have placed over the lily pond with a pagoda. It has a band inside playing. They're all dressed in Japanese garb, but they are not Japanese or Asian. Nor is there music. It's like a bass and an accordion.
The Japanese accordion.
And a guitar.
It's kind of like a sullen... Yeah, they're just kind of leering at people. And this party is my dream, honestly. I mean, this party is where it's at.
This is mid-century madness. There are lanterns
I could ever hit on
everywhere.
This.
Yeah.
You need to shoot for this, Jeff. You could pull it off in your backyard.
Okay, I'm going for this next.
Totally could.
But you do need to have a water feature, though.
Gotta have a water feature.
Gotta have that bridge. Sure. Gotta have that pagoda for the band.
I could do it, man.
It really looks nice. It looks great. Toyama and Kenji are manning the buffet. So, of course, we get a joke about stuffed seaweed and how implied gross that is. No one eat kombu. Stuffed seaweed. Dr. Pruitt, he doesn't want any. He he puts his down once he finds out what it is. Strange, weird food. He and Friend, they have a conversation about the dogs. Mel Chadwick.
Right.
He's at the
Very
party.
Good.
Former mayor of Mayberry is now an expert on dachshunds, who is also hosting the Fairview Dog Show next month. He's kind of the same guy as Mayor Stoner, pretty much.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, probably Barry. He was the same. Yeah, he played the same role in like everything he was in.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Fran has invited him to the party to get on his good side, butter him up, and to show off Chloe, who she thinks has the makings of a champion. So she confides to Doc Pruitt. She's like, should I do it? And he's like, sure. She's like, oh, it's just too naughty. He's like, no, go ahead. So Doc Pruitt reluctantly accepts some seaweed from Mr. Toyama. Fran fakes an escape of Chloe from the house. This, of course, draws the eye of Mel Chadwick, who asks to inspect her. Do you mind? He takes out his glasses so he can closely inspect her, which is weird. Meanwhile, Harry's off to the side. We all know Harry. Harry's got his brandy glass.
Yeah. It's another prequel. Put Harry in the prequels.
This guy needs a backstory big time.
Yes.
Well, we know what happened on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Maybe the prequel is
there.
just
Like, it needs to be
the prequel is centered on whatever New Year's Eve party, whatever happened with Harry went down.
Bowling Green New Year's Eve. It could be the name, yeah.
Don't forget New Year's Eve, Harry. No one will let me forget.
Once upon a time in Bowling Green.
In Bowling Green Lane.
Bowling Green.
Oh, man. Such a great line. So he's kind of getting tanked. We just have a little cutaway to him, and then we go back. Chloe gets away from Fran, goes running off, but Chadwick says, let her roam. Dachshunds love being around people. But Mr. Toyama's not happy about it. Dog not belong here. And Mark agrees. Mark is not happy about it. Mark and Doc have a conversation about the dogs. The Doc, of course, asks about Brutus. And Mark takes him off to show him how Brutus is doing. And Chloe follows. Chloe more interested in the bone that Mark takes along to give to Brutus. I don't know what kind of bone this is, but I hope it's Brutus safe. Anyway, Mark and Doc, they're out back behind the fence chatting about Brutus and the dachshunds. And Doc is talking about how great Brutus is, finest he's ever seen. Suggests that Mark put Brutus in a show, but Mark doesn't like that idea. They've got enough show ponies around here as it is. Fran eventually comes to find Mark and harass him to mingle with their guests. So they leave Brutus alone with his bone, which draws Chloe.
I just want to point out something here that an interesting detail that I thought was very unnecessary. They have different labels on the trash cans. One's trash, and the other one said peat moss, which I thought it's just why? So what is this level of detail for? And there was another.
Maybe they had a peat bog in the backyard. Maybe that's where the pond is.
It could be.
I gotta go out and mine the peat, Fran.
They keep it tight over there.
Why were people wandering through the master bedroom in this party?
Yeah, there was a lot of traffic in the house.
There's a lot. Yes.
Maybe the lady. Yeah. It was just the ladies using the powder room. That's what I assumed. A lot of ladies. But yeah, it's weird that everybody's in the bathroom. In the backyard. Freudian slip. Everyone's in the backyard, but then, a bunch of people just hanging out in the bedroom. It's odd. So Chloe finds him with the bone. She gets Brutus all riled up and kind of does the thing of running away from him, getting him to chase her, and running him in a circle so he winds his tether around the pole holding him. So he gets closer and closer and closer to the tether. And once he's pretty much tied up straight to the thing, she takes that opportunity to go steal his bone, which is now out of his reach. She takes off with that. Of course, he goes following, which unspools the tether from the pole and eventually snaps the pole. And we are off to the races.
Oh, boy.
Mark
is
is being forced to hobnob with Chadwick as Harry, who's now pretty drunk. He sits down with his little hors d'oeuvre plate next to the little pagoda.
Eat something, Harry.
Eat something, Harry. No one ever says drink something, Harry.
this guy needs his own backstory. I mean, he needs more.
Telling you, you got a prequel in the works, man. He's
sets
the
his
lead.
Oh yeah, he sets his. It could be a Disney Plus limited series too.
Could be.
I suggest. Puts his hors d'oeuvres next to this little pagoda, and he when he looks down with his fork. There's a little tip of a tail on his plate. He doesn't know what it is. I always thought he was gonna like stab it with his fork. I don't know. No matter how many times I saw it, it felt like that was how it was going. But the tail starts wagging. He's very confused. He opens up the pagoda and finds Chloe in there with Brutus's bone. He's like, "Oh, what a cute little dog." He calls his wife Mavis, who's about twice his height. And he's going to show her what's in the pagoda. It's a cute little doggy in the pagoda. And she's skeptical. He's like, look at his little face. So she opens the pagoda to look, only to find Brutus's head inside.
I love this. I love it.
Brutus barks in her face, and she screams. And then mayhem ensues. Oh boy, Kenji gets a cake in the face. There are geishas running around screaming. Women frantically fleeing. They're in like the bedroom. Like they had to have had people who were kind of stunt actors because like all these women in the bedroom are like flopping off the bed.
There are some really great just reaction shots and pratfalls. I mean, all over.
Oh, it's Pratt.
Incredible.
It's like dozens of pratfalls everywhere you look. Just
incredible.
Flopping off the bed. The dogs are chasing each other around the yard. We get some really awkward karate poses from Kenji, who's covered in cake. Toyama's playing possum on the ground, of course. Got dogs running under him and over him.
Yeah, that was weird. The way I was like, why is he doing that?
He's got his back arched so the dachshund can run underneath it. Brutus winds up pulling a cart, like a dessert cart or something, with Kenji on top. Kenji's kind of surfing on this cart and winds up taking a dive down the length of the dessert table. Slowly, as this is all unfolding, everyone is taking sanctuary in the pagoda over the lily pond for some reason. Chadwick's out there. Fran goes to save him. They're all like holding arms around the perimeter of this pagoda, like trying to hold it together. Of course, it gives way. Everyone gets dumped into the water. Here, of course, we give special mention to the Foley of the accordion player.
Yes.
Yes. In my notes, I had a long sigh for that one.
Closes his accordion and like water comes spurting out from all directions and makes an incredible sound.
I also wanted to give it up to somebody who I had never really noticed before. Like when the pagoda falls, like the tallest member of the band, his head goes through the pagoda and he just kind of like staring around at like everybody with this blank expression for a long time. It's great. Also shout out. Okay. First of all, I was going to say shout out to a in there that gets thrown in there.
I missed that one.
It's when he first gets the younger caterer gets hit with the cake in the face.
The cake in the face.
Right,
yeah.
It's just like a little, it's like a Wilhelm scream. It's like really ducked. It's like, it's just like a really quiet one. The other thing I wanted to say, which I'm catching up, is that the dog Foley for like the whining dogs, it's like that has to be the most used Foley, aside from maybe, that Disney uses. It's like all over the rides at Disneyland, at Disney World. It's
true,
like,
yeah.
in all these movies, yes, like that whiny thing. It's
they use it a lot in the Haunted Mansion, don't they?
And Pirates. It's over both
Pirates.
of them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That one gets a lot of play. I'm sure it's in Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, Probably
all
is.
over the place. Yeah.
And it's an absent-minded professor. I mean, like all that stuff.
We got to find the origin of this one, where it started.
Be a good thing to know.
Probably the the singing group that did all the song, the
Mellow Men.
the Mellow Men for Lady in the
Yeah.
Tramp.
I thought you were talking about the party.
Words tonight. Yeah, well, it could have been
Could have been
the
the
party.
party.
Could have been the party. There's also a kind of a
the same.
tall woman who takes like a massive tumble into the pond that's like pretty seems kind of perilous, and she about gets hit by somebody who also falls in. There's just a lot of background mayhem going on in this. Of course, everything winds up with Fran knocking Mark into the pond and almost on top of the mayor, on top of Chadwick. And of course, Brutus seems oblivious. He's just like, hey, that was crazy. Cut to the next day. Mark is cleaning up the disaster area while Fran fields phone calls from the injured party guests, as well as Toyama. Toyama, who says he's not coming to clean up and that the Garrisons now own all the junk. $325 worth of junk, which to me sounds like a great deal. $325, sure, I'd pay that for all those lanterns and pagodas and stuff.
Mark also, again, dressed wonderfully. Got a turtleneck and a collared shirt. I mean, just looking fly for cleaning up around the house.
Yeah, that is some really nice workwear right there. She also adds, Fran does, she called Doc Pruitt to tell him Mark was going to be bringing Brutus back. And they get in the back and forth all over again. Who is to blame for the previous night's havoc? The Dachshunds or Brutus, and back and forth. And then they go back inside. Meanwhile, out front, the Dachshunds are rooting around in the garbage for leftovers as Brutus watches. They're eating cake and who knows what else. The trash man shows up. He's got some great dubbing. This guy's got some very memorable. Brutus.
Yeah, and the celebrity dub too.
Celebrity dub. I never realized this till I watched this as an adult.
I didn't either.
It's Paul Frees, the legendary every voice, everything. A billion credits, Paul Frees doing the voice of the garbage man. And the last time I saw this, I was like, that has to be him. And so I looked it up, and apparently the guy who played the garbage man had some sort of throat cancer or something at the time, died soon after. He couldn't speak very well.
Oh, wow.
And so it didn't sound very good. And so they had Paul Frees come back in and dub over his dialogue.
Completely missed that.
Yeah. You shouldn't be eating that, Brutus. That's not good for you.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, like, he matches the lips. I mean, it's a pretty great match, because I was like, that's not Paul Frees and like some kind of like, I was like, no, that's not him. But I was like watching the lips, and it's like, man, he's like nailing this. It's just great.
Like, you can't tell from like visual cues that it's like ADR. Like, you can only tell because the voice is, when you realize what who the voice is. That's the only way you can tell. He does a great job. So, Paul Frees, the trash man, he's very affable. He's talking to Brutus this entire time. And he shows up. He's talking to Brutus. He takes the trash cans, into which Chloe has fallen while she was eating things she shouldn't have. And he puts them in the bin to go up into the garbage truck. Brutus tries first to save Chloe and warn the guy, but the guy doesn't get what's happening. He doesn't understand. All right, well, sorry, it's gone now. Did you lose your favorite bone? He doesn't get it.
I love how he's like, you're up early today. It's like, what dog isn't up early? Like, what are you talking about?
Usually you sleep in on Saturdays.
Yes.
I think he was the
He's
cat
the
murderer.
old garbage man. He could also factor into the prequel.
Yeah, he could have been the cat burglar. That's true, since he knows so much about what everybody's happening. You're right,
We're
Andy.
getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's got the milkman as his like toady accomplice.
Yeah, he's like the lookout. He's like a spotter.
Casing
Does
a
the
joint,
recon.
looking, checking when the dogs are going to be out. And
It's good. It's good.
Like
Let's
the wet
go to the
bandits.
house where the dog sleeps in.
Yeah, the Great Dane always sleeps in. I know. Yeah.
So Brutus is barking up a storm, and it kind of starts to freak out the garbage man. It's like, what's the matter? You sick? So the garbage man calls out the garrisons.
Yeah, you're crushing it, Michael.
I've had a lot of practice listening to this garbage man over the years. They restrain Brutus, the garrisons. They come out, they pull him back, but then they hear Chloe. She's up yapping inside the trash truck. So Mark goes up to look and does a pratfall face forward flop into the truck. After a moment of suspense, he comes back with Chloe covered in trash. She's got a lettuce leaf on her head. Everybody's happy.
Of course.
They figure out Brutus knew what was going down. You say, you don't think he knew? Yeah, he did.
whoa,
And this instantly warms Fran to him, ending Act 2.
Mark? Is she in there, Mark?
I don't know.
Oh, poor
Look at her.
Chloe.
She's okay. She's all right, Fran.
Oh, look at her. Oh, my poor baby.
Hey, you know something? I'll bet you that's why Brutus wouldn't let me in the truck. He knew that little pooch was in there. It kind of looks that way, doesn't it?
Poor Brutus. Bet your silly father forgot to give you breakfast. Come on, I'll give you a couple of eggs.
All right, ready on the left? Ready on the right? Let's wrap
here we
this
go.
thing up. Here we go. Act 3. Well, Brutus has finally earned his keep. Fran and Brutus pose in a... is that like fox hunting garb? Or
Yes.
Oh, man.
This outfit.
for this painting that Mark is working on?
Painting.
Yeah,
I want that painting.
Well, you wouldn't use a Great Dane for fox hunting. Come on.
Yeah. I don't get it. Yeah, so the Dachshund girls are looking
She's
on.
a
And
fox.
Fran is tired and sits down and lets the girls in her lap. But Brutus gets jealous and wants in Fran's lap too. And she isn't happy about that. She says Brutus needs to learn that he's not a lap dog. He's not a Dachshund. Did I say that right?
He is not a
Michael?
dachshund.
Yeah.
Dachshund.
Which is the way I've pronounced it for like 30 years now. Because
That's another one. Yeah.
he must learn he is not a dachshund.
It's just so weird. She is so quirky in this movie. It's yeah. So good.
Mark thinks that she may be onto something and pulls out a dog book to show Brutus pictures of what he is, which is just a great idea, Mark. Dachshunds,
Mark
no.
is such a
Great
boob,
Danes,
man.
yes.
Golly. I swear. This
Yeah.
dude is dense.
Seemingly coming to a realization of what kind of dog he is, Brutus strikes the perfect Great Dane pose, impressing both Mark and Fran. But before Mark can feel too good about himself and his clever idea, Fran points out that Brutus has resorted back to thinking he's a dachshund, crawling low along the ground. Well, the next day, Mark is working with Brutus in the backyard, trying to get him to heal, but not having much luck when Dr. Pruitt arrives. And Doc Pruitt says Chloe has a rash, and Fran is all worked up, and she's prepping for this upcoming dog show.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have to give credit. We have to give mention to when he and Fran are, when he's trying to like pep talk Brutus into being a Great Dane. The Fran's line, Dachshund fooey, Great Dane, yes.
Yes.
Which is another classic weird line.
So Doc Pruitt begins observing Brutus and notices how nice of a breed specimen he is, and suggests to Mark that he'd be a fine show dog himself. He even offers to work with Brutus if Mark would allow it, which he doesn't. Fran comes in and asks Doc Pruitt for some more questions about Chloe, but then notices Mark working with Brutus and asks what in the world is he doing. And she finds it hilarious when he says that he's training him, which was just very rude.
Rude.
Yeah, and when Mark pushes back,
is.
Fran shows her kind of like a contemptuous attitude towards Brutus and saying that he's just a sweet, clumsy ox, and he's, they shouldn't expect much, and he just kind of walks off with Chloe in her perfect stride with her. Yeah, it was just a hoity-toity.
Struts.
Yeah. Mark doesn't like this at all. Neither does Doc Pruitt, who, before he can leave, Mark agrees to let him work with Brutus.
Shout out to Mark's giant picture of OJ he keeps in the backyard as he trains Brutus. Just got like a 3-foot tall glass, samovar of OJ.
It made me wonder if it was a screwdriver, though, because I was like, you want a drink?
Yeah.
It's like, who says you want a drink and they're offering orange juice?
Mark Garrison.
Yeah, could be.
Mark
Could be.
Garrison,
If anybody, it's Mark
Well, he's
Garrison.
had his grapefruit already. Maybe he's just big into citrus. Maybe it's a health nut.
Could be.
Well, it's Southern California, so it makes sense.
It's true.
Well, Mark wants to keep it a secret from Fran, and Doc Pruitt says that he won't tell her. Why, he wouldn't even tell his mother. This is a strange
Can
line.
you imagine, being a conspirator with Mark Garrison? I would not. On anything.
Well,
It's
he's easily manipulated, so
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. If you're pulling the strings, I guess. Yeah.
It did make me wonder, though, what's their relationship? Because, I'm friendly with my vet, but
Doc is tight with
they are
them, man.
really
boys.
Tight.
yeah.
it's like they're like lodge buddies or something.
Plus, Doc is so cool. It's like,
He
why
is.
are you going to be friends with these idiots?
Yeah. Well, speaking of being cool, the following day out in the field, Doc Pruitt is wearing a pretty rad outfit.
This outfit is great.
Outfit's great. And I just lost my mind at their 2 station wagons. That's
Yeah.
like the final piece of my dream. I want to have the party. I want to have the house. I want to have the station wagons.
Yeah.
I want it.
Yeah, they're out in the field and he's giving Mark instructions on how to handle Brutus. And then we get a montage of Mark struggling to get Brutus to cooperate and act right as Doc Pruitt attempts to coach him through it all. But finally, after some time, Brutus starts to get it, but he just isn't consistent. And Doc feels that he should have a proud look to him and a Dane look, because sometimes he's fine, then sometimes he kind of loses his character. And Mark says that that's just the Dachshund in him. And they just need to figure out how to persuade him and they have to do it by tomorrow. The next day at the Fairview Kennel Club Dog Show, contestants are checking in and being shown to their prep stall. I don't know what you call that little area that they're going to, but Mark and Doc Pruitt have Brutus spiffied up and he's ready to go. And Doc reassures Mark that Fran won't see them because her event with the Dachshunds are on the other end of the building. Then we get a sequence of shots from the point of view of Brutus as he's looking around at the other competition. And we see a variety of other dogs and their owners who look like their dogs.
They love this gag.
101 Dalmatians gag. Yeah.
Yeah. I always wondered what it would be like to be cast as lady who looks like a basset hound. How does that go down? Do they put out an ad looking for a lady that's kind of ragged looking? And she's like,
There's
that's
a job
me.
for everybody, man.
Yeah.
There's a job for everybody.
Yeah, because there's a schnauzer and a poodle and a basset hound and the bulldog guy.
Bulldog is on the money, man.
Yeah, that guy's good.
Yeah, it makes Brutus nervous and he won't stand still. And Mark tries to calm him down and reassure him. But Fran has somehow ended up on their side of the building, and Mark tells Doc to get down before she sees him. Before Fran can notice them, her dog Chloe sees Brutus and they start barking at each other. Fran looks over and she sees this Great Dane that looks just like Brutus, but surely it wouldn't be Brutus. And so she just kind of all right, whatever. And she leaves.
She's racist.
Doc says
Great Danes look the same.
Yeah, Doc says Mark's not going to be able to keep avoiding Fran for long, and Mark says he just needs to avoid her until they can win that blue ribbon. Then an announcer's voice calls all the Great Danes to the ring because their breed competition is about to begin. After Doc wishes Mark luck, Mark enters the ring walking past the judge, who's really giving him like a stink eye. I don't know what that judge's problem is.
Totally.
He is hostile. Maybe he's just jealous of Mark's vest, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very Christmassy.
It is.
Brutus looks around at the other Great Danes and he stands very proud. And then when the judge asks them to walk their dogs around, the novice Mark walks it the wrong way, but then he quickly corrects his mistake. And things are looking good until an onlooking bystander shows up with her I hate saying this word, dachshund, in her arms. And when Brutus notices that the dachshund, he starts to revert back to his old ways, and the crowd just finds it funny. And Doc Pruitt can't bear to watch. And the judge stops everything and asks Brutus is sick or just tired. He's like, is this dog just sick or just tired? And that guy was like, he's very just, I don't know, he's just like old man Wheeler from the Andy Griffith Show, sounds like. Mark says it's just stage fright, and the skeptical judge starts the competition again. Things aren't looking too good. I'm sorry, hang on, let me back up. Oh, sorry, I must have wrote the sentence like half asleep or something. So another bystander arrives with her female Dane this time. And boy, howdy, this is all Brutus needs. He perks right up and immediately takes the perfect classic Great Dane pose. The judge can't believe it's the same dog, and he kind of walks over and he says to Mark, he's like, how'd you do it? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, I won't have you thrown out if you tell me how you switched the dogs. And Mark swears it's the same dog. And once again, the skeptical judge just gives him some more dirty looks and just walks off. Mark wants an explanation for Brutus's sudden transformation. And Doc points out the female Dane and says dogs are just like people. And it takes a female to make a fellow want to show off. Mm-hmm. The judge has made his finalists, and he selects Brutus as one of them. They once again
just wanted to say that when he's walking around after, Brutus, gets into Great Dane mode, Mark's walking him around yes.
His face and his strut is so good. And the music, the march music.
Yeah. And the judge is like, stop that. Stop. No, I said stop. Such a weird detail. Amazing.
Yeah, well, so they start once again walking around the ring, and Brutus really shows off his stuff for the female dog. And then here comes that dachshund on-looking lady, and she comes up and kind of sidles up next to Doc Pruitt. And when Doc notices her, he grabs his hat and puts it over the dachshund so Brutus won't see it.
Man.
Yeah, that upsets the lady. And Doc just apologizes. He's like, it slipped. And he gives the dachshund a kiss, and as she storms off. The judge says he's seen enough and then scolds Mark as he takes one more lap.
Yeah,
I just don't get it. I don't understand why he's so ornery. But yeah, the judge stares at the finalists slowly, comparing the dogs, and then he makes his decision. And the winner is Brutus. And
who would have thunk it, man?
Amazing. I didn't think it was
0 to hero.
From worst to first. As they leave the ring, Mark pets the female Dane to thank her for just being there. And then he and Doc Pruitt have an awkward kind of handshake hug exchange as they celebrate. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah. They needed daps.
Mark wants Doc to hold on to Brutus because he wants to find Fran and rub her nose in the blue ribbon he just won.
My man.
Really unhealthy relationship. But Doc says he can't leave yet because now he has to be judged in the best of breed competition. And Mark doesn't care, though. He just hands Brutus over to Doc and takes off. Well, Mark goes and finds Fran, who's happy to see him, but she's embarrassed because Chloe only won second place. And she's embarrassed for everything she put Mark through. And the two reconcile, and Mark decides not to show her the blue ribbon he had just won. But as he puts the blue ribbon in his pocket, Fran notices it, and she asks what it is. And then Mark kind of starts making up a story about how he found it. But then an announcer calls for the working class best of winners. I think it's right. Working class best of winners to come to the ring. Mark gets the notion that maybe Brutus is in that group, and he just grabs Fran, and they head off to find out.
This is such a whiplash thing of him being like, "Yeah, I'm going to stick it to Fran," and then being like, "Oh, I feel bad," but he's like, "Oh, come along and see what's going on over here." I don't know. It's like,
you're right.
Maybe I am going to shove your face in it. I don't know.
It's been building up to this, and you're like you're waiting for that payoff, and then that doesn't happen.
Right.
So yeah, sure enough, Doc Pruitt is leading Brutus around the ring after he won the best of breed blue ribbon, and Fran can't believe, she can't believe that Brutus is there, but she's very excited for them. Mark confesses that he wanted to show her the blue ribbons that Brutus won, but just didn't have the heart after hearing that she had only won second place. And she calls him. She's like, "Oh, what my sweet, wonderful boob," and plants a big kiss on him. Chloe barks, and Fran tells her to be quiet and watch her brother. So we transition to the Garrisons at home, and Mark is hanging up a shadow box of 4 ribbons. And Brutus didn't win, but he did get third place. And Mark says he gave the other blue ribbon to Doc Pruitt for all the help that he was. Mark says he's sorry it was such a disappointing day for Fran. She says it's okay because it's ending much better than it started. And smooth Mark puts his arm around her, and they agree no more dog shows, no more blue ribbons. He'll work, she'll keep house, and they'll raise ordinary, everyday dogs. But then Fran says, among other things, hinting at maybe possibly a baby.
Please don't have children, you two.
Yeah.
Come on.
It'll fix everything.
Right. It'll give her something to do. Brutus interrupts them with his whining as he sleeps next to his Dachshund sisters, and they realize he's dreaming. And Fran asks Mark if Mark thinks that the female Dane really made a difference. And Dean Jones, and all his Dean Jonesness, says, "Honey, females always make a difference." And they kiss once more.
Oh.
And as the film begins to wrap, Brutus is getting his face licked by one of the other Dachshunds, and he lets out a bark that really terrifies those wiener dogs. And he lowers his tired head down, and which brings the ugly Dachshund to an end.
Dachshunds, man, or Dachshunds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Andy and I have a friend who has who favors those dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We tell them straight up we don't like those dogs.
They have some great names for these dogs. Wilhelmina.
It's a name. It's a
Clotilde
Dagmar.
von Donkeline.
he probably listens, so he'll know we're talking about him.
Our grandparents had a dachshund when we were real little.
Yeah, that's right.
We're talking about you, Benny.
Called him out.
Benny von Donkeline.
Benny von Donkeling. That's a good. There you go, Andy. You can name your next dog that.
There we go.
The circle will be complete. Well, it is time to rate the Ugly Dachshund, and this is going to be very hard for me, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But what's our rubric for tonight, Robert?
So I was kind of torn here. There wasn't like a lot of like quirky plot devices, but there was one character, and there weren't a lot of characters, keep in mind, but there's one character that stood out, and he didn't really do anything for the plot, but just give us some laughs. So we're going to go with Drunken Harry's.
Okay.
So
Nice.
Don't forget New Year's Eve. Okay. Well, let's go to plot and writing. How many Drunken Harrys do you give the Ugly Dachshund, Robert?
Yeah, this is kind of a tough one too. I mean, the second act just did nothing for me. And I was more annoyed than I was entertained by that, but I don't think I can give it a 2 over that. So I'm going to probably give it just a 3.
Okay. And Michael, how many Drunken Harrys do you give it?
I mean, from before I started watching this, I knew this would be like nearly impossible for me to grade.
Yes, I feel the same way.
I mean, it's like, for me personally, on both nostalgia and just sort of personal enjoyment level, all these levels are very high. But I could not recommend it just random stranger and be like, hey, you should absolutely watch this movie. It's impossible. I'm gonna give it a 3 for plot and writing because very little actually happens, and it's not a very heavily written movie. I mean, there's a lot of shenanigans going on. So yeah, I'll just go straight down the middle, 3.
Okay, I was gonna say 4, but you've talked me down to a 3 because I think it's like the things that it's all nostalgia, but like you said, but it's a lot of the things I like are acting decisions for the writing.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
I'll give it 3 too, and we'll end with Andy.
For all the exact same reasons, I'm going to go with a 2. I don't think it's quite good enough to even be in middle of the road. I think it's I think the plot and the writing is the weakest part of the entire movie.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You kind of make me want to go to a 2 now, Andy, but I think I'll stay at a 3. Yeah. All right.
All right, we're going to go to casting acting. I'll start this one off. I'm going to give it a 4 because I liked the actors for the roles they had. Like we've all said, there aren't that many. I thought Charlie Ruggles is just the man. Of course, Dean Jones, Suzanne Pleshette, we've talked a lot about what they do. It's not crazy, it's not Oscar worthy or anything, but I think they make the script better. So I'm going to give it a 4. And we will go to Andy.
I'm going to go with a 4 as well. I think Suzanne Pleshette, she did a good job. I don't think she had much to work with, and so at least she made the character memorable. But yeah, I thought each one did a really good job. And so, 4 for me. 4 Drunken Harrys.
Okay, and Robert?
It's going to be a hard 4 as well. Dean Jones, I mean, what can you say? I mean, I always enjoy his work. So,
Michael.
You know what? I'm gonna go a little over on this one. I'm gonna give it a 5 because, like we said, there aren't a lot of people. The 3 leads, as they are all people I really, really like, just in anything they're in. And I totally agree that not given much to do, but they took what they were given and made absolutely the most out of it they could, which I don't think you could ask anymore of a cast person. And like all these like minor roles, like the cop, even when they're just like weird, they're memorable. Like the cop, like Harry, even that weirdo milk guy was memorable. So I got to give him credit across the board.
Weirdo milk.
All right, we're gonna jump to production value. I'll hit up Robert. How many Drunken Harrys you give that?
That's a tough one because there's only like 3 sets in the whole movie, and they used the house for like 90% of it. But it's nice. I mean, it stood out for so many years to me. But I just it didn't do a lot of. I mean, I just don't think I could give it a 4 over that. So I'm gonna go. I mean, it's tough, but I'm gonna go with a 3 because there's not a lot of diversity in the production value. Just
right. Andy,
I agree with Robert. There's not a lot there. I don't think the production of it makes it stand out. I do think that my appreciation for that era could skew the score of what I would give it normally, but I'm going to go with a 3 as well.
Ooh, I want to give it a 5, but I guess I'm not going to because it is one of those aim small, miss small productions. But the music, I love the music, and I love the design of the house so much. It was such a big deal for me as a kid. I'm going to give it a 4.
But
and we will.
Can I ask you this though? I mean,
Yeah.
you just have a personal preference for that style, but
Yes.
that, I mean, I guess that's kind of goes back to what I was saying is just because I have like a preference for the style doesn't necessarily mean the production of it was made.
That's probably true. I find it very hard to separate.
Yeah. I get it.
But I mean, the other thing is, I think it's pretty well done. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at 4, but I think you raise a great point.
I think the music certainly would push it.
Absolutely.
For me, almost up to a 4 because I really didn't give the music a lot of weight in my decision. But
right. Well, Michael, what do you have to say about the production value?
I am sorely tempted to give it top marks like you, Jeff. It is so weird that the movie, aside from the trip to Doc Pruitt's and aside from the show at the end, it only takes place in the living room, the backyard, and his studio. And that's it. It's like a stage play.
I was going to say, it's almost like a stage performance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. But the design of the house is so awesome. And like we talked about at the beginning of the show, it looks good for a movie that, is just like a Technicolor domestic comedy that mostly takes place in the backyard. It looks really good. Technically, I think the music is really good. Also, I got to give it points for like the dog shenanigans because that's not easy to do. Mm-hmm. So I'll give it a 4, but it's a high 4.
Okay, and we will stay with you for entertainment value.
For me, it's a 4, but this is probably, aside from not Saludos Amigos, Three Caballeros, this is the most subjective rating that I've given any of the movies that we've talked about. For me, it's a 4.
Okay. I will agree with that. I just really enjoy this movie. I think, I agree that it kind of drags in the middle, but the parts that hit just make me just crack me up. So we will go to Robert.
It's tough because, like you said, it's the parts that hit were great, and the parts that miss aren't like groan-worthy miss that we've seen in some of the other movies.
Right.
Ooh, I was entertained, so I'm gonna go with a 4. Yeah.
All right, and we will end with Andy.
I said that this was, I forget exactly how I put it, but it was just a fun kind of dumb movie. I didn't think, I think that it did slow down enough for me to kind of make me not want to watch it or even turn it off if I was not having to do that for the podcast. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I'm going to give it a 3. But like you said, that there are some elements that are very entertaining just enjoy it from looking back at it from a nostalgic kind of almost historical perspective. So yeah, I think I would give it a 3, and it's one of those movies that I think it's a good one to recommend to people in the fact that you said, if you want to get a sense of some of these Disney movies from this era, this is a good one to kind of jump into and easy to.
Yeah. I think that about this one and like That Darn Cat, which we've got to do sometime.
Yeah.
Those are just like right in the middle of the time, and they don't like rely on, I don't know, they're just both like simple, good movies for what they are. Well, we should plug this into the computer that wore tennis shoes and see what it says. It kind of graded out higher than I thought it would. Robert, what did the computer say?
All right. So the computer that wore tennis shoes is now chewed on our Drunken Harrys, and it has spit out a score of 3.56, almost in the top 10.
Hey.
Actually, I'm sorry. Pardon me. We are tied for number 10 with.
We have a tie
with Tron.
Those are two very
Interesting
different movies.
double feature. Yeah.
So Tron and the Ugly Dachshund both
Greetings,
share a
Dachshunds.
3.56. We may have to revisit Tron and rescore it down the road. Yeah, so top 10 movie.
All right. Well, there you go. Before we leave it, we have ranked it. Did Leonard Maltin have anything to say about this movie, Michael?
Strangely enough, Leonard Maltin had quite a bit to say about this movie, more than he's had to say about some other much more prominent movies we've discussed. Here are a few quotes. He said, "The Ugly Dachshund is one of those silly, cute animal comedies that seems to have been conceived and executed on someone's lunch hour." He says, I know it's Burns. He says, "There is no denying that its obvious storyline, unsubtle acting, and visual comedy are surefire fodder for the younger set." He also adds, he talked about the different scenes. He said the art studio scene where the dogs wreck the art studio was, quote, "the most awesome." Said the party scene where they wreck the party was, quote, "the most epic." And he said the one with the people where they look like they're dogs at the dog show was, quote, "the most ingenious," which I thought was hilarious.
Wow.
He also quoted a review from Time Magazine, which I thought was fascinating. Time Magazine at the time this came out said, quote,
What?
"Such comedies as this one are too wholesome for kids, too foolish for dog fanciers, and a sure way to persuade young adults that movies filled with sex and violence can't be all bad," unquote.
What?
I don't know. Time Magazine getting
What's
into
that
it.
even mean? I don't quite understand.
But it's worth pointing out, Maltin
Huh.
said, this movie was a big hit. He says it's hard to argue with success.
That's, I can't argue with success, as they say. Well, man, seems like it hit Leonard where he itched. There you go. Well, any final thoughts on the Ugly Dachshund before we leave it behind?
I just want to say I'm impressed that we got through all that and didn't do any Elizabeth voice about a dog.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, I go. We had too many others to do.
Yeah,
It
too
was
many
very
other voices,
tempting.
but that's
I
what-
was
That is
good
that
to-
is so true. I will say that within the last couple of years, I had to show this movie to a friend to explain why, apropos of nothing, I don't even remember what made me say it, but I started saying Dachshund Fooey. And I was like, well, to explain that, I'll have to show you the Ugly Dachshund.
Oh, of course. Well, there's a chill in the air, like we said. The frost is on the pumpkin, and it's almost the holiday season. There's no better way to spend your holidays gathered around your smartphone and listen to our holiday special. Are you listening on your smartphone or on your desktop? Either way, Robert, what do you have in store for the listeners?
So we really need to redeem ourselves after last year's holiday debacle, babes in Toyland. So we're going to go back to the age of Charles Dickens, London, with a personal favorite of mine, Mickey's Christmas Carol. And gentlemen, this one was on heavy rotation in our home. And I often did battle with my mom, who loves A Christmas Carol, but she prefers the George C. Scott version
Really?
and watches it year round. A plucky 5-year-old that I was at the time preferred the Scrooge McDuck version over George's interpretation of Ebenezer Scrooge. So there was some heated discussions about which one we're going to watch every, 48 hours. It felt like at times that we would plop this movie in. But yeah, this one's, I've seen this one a lot. We had a whole Christmas tape, and we just recorded all the Christmas specials that over the course of the 2 weeks they aired them all. So Charlie Brown,
Nice.
this one, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, all the the old stop motion ones, and but I always skipped over most of those because I wanted to see this one. This was the one I liked the most. So excited to watch it.
My biggest memories from Mickey's Christmas Carol were for years that we had stuffed animals from
Yes.
Was it Hardee's?
I want to say
Hardee's did
Hardee's.
them. That's right. Yeah.
And they had some great Mickey's Christmas Carol stuffed animals that we had and still have.
And still do.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I got them out, I think, last Christmas, put them around the tree.
Yeah. So there you go. I'll be excited to get into that.
Did Hardee's have the glasses as well that went with
Hardee's
them?
had a lot of stuff. They had Gizmo and the Gremlins.
Was it Carl's Jr. out west? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were a separate company until probably, I want to say, the 90s when Carl's Jr. bought Hardee's. So they were not originally the same company. Shout out to Hardee's. Give Hardee's some love.
Man, I had Hardee's just last week, and it was delicious.
I'm jealous.
Wow.
It's good stuff,
Shelby
man.
had, 2 or 3 Hardee's? I know they had 2, but didn't they have
Two,
a
I
third
can
I
one?
know they
think
had
of.
2 for sure.
Yeah.
We were a double Hardee's town.
It's
Well,
pretty
you know
big.
you've hit the
And
big time.
it showed.
All right, so I've been dying to know, Robert, who or do we? Let me do this again.
Yeah, bring it up kind of like very
Who had a
deliberate.
Dewey?
Wait, bring it up. What?
Bring it up very deliberately. Like, gee, I was thinking the other day, Robert. Who?
That okay? I see what you're saying. Well, gee willikers, Robert. The other Robert, just the other day, I was wondering when. Gosh, guys, I'm sorry, it's late and I'm tired. Robert, who won the competition? But for Todd's contest, whatever we're doing for Todd.
This is awful. Well, Andy, if you must ask, it was our old friend Phil Smith. Phil Smith, yes, Phil Smith gave us the secret. I don't even remember what it was. It was from Blackbeard's Ghost.
This is good. This is good stuff.
Crim, Krill, whatever.
Bravo, Kato Cree.
Phil knows what
There
it
we
is.
go.
Phil's know
That's
what it
it.
is. That's all that matters.
Phil
Right.
knew it. Phil is enjoying his new business cards, courtesy of Todd Naprick at BindandGraphics.com. That's BYDAND graphics.com. So if you need business cards, Christmas cards, t-shirt cards, or just t-shirts, you can call, email, or find Todd at his website, BindandGraphics.com, or at Upworks, and you too can get the benefits that Phil is enjoying right now. So thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
And if you want to take part in our most recent giveaway, you can do that too at Fee-Fi-Fo-Fum at, I believe it's Todd's email account. Whatever it was. I forgot.
Find them
Send
on
the email to
Upworks.
Todd.
It's email Todd at
Get
Gmail.
it.
It'll get to him.
Computer, send, email, Todd.
Get your t-shirt cards free.
Use AOL keyword Todd to access Todd.
For all of you dial-up AOL fans out there.
Use your home speaker device.
On Prodigy,
Yeah.
on Prodigy, it's star TODD.
Well, that seems easy enough. I'm sure you all will figure it out. But in the meantime, until we join you for the Christmas cheer, from all of us here at the Medfield College Film Society, to all of you, take care. We'll see you real soon.
Proud are we of mighty Medfield, alma mater dear. All your sons and daughters hail to thee, Medfield College of Technology. And while we hold your banner high, rock, rock, we shout your praises to the sky, rock, rock. For proud are we of mighty Medfield, loyal